Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Govs on the Go Alumni Edition, a podcast featuring alumni from the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. My name is Dr. Brice Bement. I'm the host of the podcast. I'm also the dean of the college. And today I'm talking with Brice Bement, who graduated from Austin Peay in 2019. Welcome to the podcast, Brice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we've got so many wonderful things to talk about because you and I have a lot in common. I used to teach sports production, and you are a sports reporter. And so you are following what many of my former students used to do. And we're going to talk about that. And plus, we're both from Illinois.
Yeah, we have a lot in common, actually. That's a lot of things, actually. I didn't know you taught sports. So that's really neat, sports broadcasting.
Yeah, so let's give everybody a life update. What's going on?
Well, I currently am a sports reporter in Champaign, Illinois, at a station called WCIA. And in Champaign, we are right next to the University of Illinois. So we cover all things Illinois. We travel to the games and everything. So, I've been all over. We can go more into that in a minute. But we cover University of Illinois, high school, the Big Ten, all that. So I'm all around the map a lot of the times, driving around the state and everything. And we have a 6 and 10 o'clock show. So we usually cover that. I'm actually going to go after this. I got to go anchor the 6 and 10. So, but yeah, I guess that's kind of the updated, so a little bit of who I am there.
Great. Well, let's go all the way back, and we're going to start at where you're from. You're from a small town, and I haven't heard of it, Waterloo. And you say it's near St. Louis. And so was it a small town? What was it like growing up in Waterloo?
Yeah, definitely a small town. So I used to call it a Hallmark town. I still kind of do. It's very like, if you ever watch one of those Christmas Hallmark movies, like that during Christmas time. Like it's real small and real adorable. I think I had like 30 people in my grade school. I went to a little private school. I think I had like 30 people in my class. So, but then I ended up going to high school in Missouri at St. Joseph's Academy, which is an all-girls college prep academy, where I played multiple sports. I would drive constantly every day to Missouri for all my sports that I played, because I played competitive soccer, basketball, softball. I even ran track in high school too. So definitely stayed very busy there. So it's about 30 minutes from downtown St. Louis, but I was like 15 minutes from Missouri. So I could get there easily. So it was just like a quick little commute for us. So yeah, so I joke I basically lived in Missouri growing up, because I would, especially in high school, I would drive at 6:30 in the morning to get to high school in time because of rush hour traffic. So I'd get there and I wouldn't get home until like 8 p.m. that night.
So you mentioned that you did all those sports, and it sounds like your family was very much a sports-oriented family. Tell us about your family.
Yeah, so actually my parents both played college sports. So they both went to Eastern Illinois, which we also cover Eastern. I forgot to mention that. We also cover Eastern Illinois. They're about 45 minutes from Champaign. But my parents actually both went there. They're both alums. My mom played college softball. My dad was a wrestler. And then my oldest brother actually played college soccer. And he actually plays professional soccer right now. And so he's been doing that since he's been out of college. So, and he's turning 30 soon. So he's a professional soccer player. And then my middle brother, who's also older, I'm the youngest of two older brothers. He also was playing soccer, basketball, all that and everything. So we actually, in our backyard, we had a big backyard, and my dad built soccer goals in our backyard. So we actually had homemade soccer goals so we could play soccer. We had home run derbies in our backyard. My parents, after COVID, turned it into a pool finally for them. But we had like a pitching mound, everything. So we're a huge soccer family. So my parents would constantly be driving us to games. And if I wasn't going to my own game, I was going to my brother's games, or hitting in the yard with my mom for softball, or we were shooting around with a basketball hoop. So we still even have soccer on every day. Like I go home on the weekends sometimes to see my family, and there is some type of sports game on our TVs at all times. So it's a huge soccer sports family for sure.
So, growing up with two older brothers, I'm wondering, was that a help or a hindrance to your athletic abilities?
They definitely didn't take it easy on me. I joke, like, I think I have like a giant scar on my knee from when street basketball got a little too tough on our driveway. And I think my oldest brother would just throw me down. So I think it did turn me into a little bit of a competitor. So I grew up because my oldest brother, a lot of his teammates had younger brothers that were my age. So I grew up like constantly playing with all the boys. And so I was like having to always play sports with them. So I definitely learned to hold my own and not take anything, if that makes it, like, and kind of be able to fight back. So as much as I like to joke with them and stuff, I really think that helped me kind of become pretty scrappy as a player. I remember like my first club tryout in like, I think I was in like the second grade. I was like, basically like a coach had taken the ball and he's like a full grown adult. And I was like trying to like push and shove and fight and try to get the ball. And he's like, I like her. She's scrappy. So I think it helped me with my athletic ability. I definitely learned to not, I guess, back down from competition. So
That's great. Now, you seem like you're such a natural communicator as well. At some point, I bet somebody was maybe in high school that said, you know what, this young lady she's good at talking. Did you have other things that you were following, other passions? Maybe were you in band, singing, other things that you like to do?
So you don't want to hear me sing. I'm terrible.
No.
I will sing, but I'm terrible at singing.
Okay.
You don't want to hear me sing. I actually was in band, so that's a little fun fact about me. My mom made all of us join the band. We all did piano lessons too. I'm not very musically talented, though. I will wholeheartedly say it. So I was not very good at the piano. I think when I was really little, I was learning piano. Both my brothers did it, and my brother had to try to help me more. And he finally just went to my mom. He's like, "Mom, she's just not very good at it. She just isn't picking up on it." So I think I would rather go run around outside. So that was kind of my thing there. So, but I also played the saxophone in junior high. I was first chair in 8th grade, but I was really bad. Um, so we did get to do that. And then, but yeah, when I was in high school, I remember like my life was live, breathe sports. Like I was going from soccer practice. Sometimes we'd have morning workouts like before school or like morning track practice. And then I'd have soccer practice and softball like after school. So I had like sometimes like 3 sports a day kind of stuff going on. And so at that point, I was just like, I want to play sports in college. So in high school, that was kind of my thought process was I want to play sports in college. I did do some writing for a newspaper in high school a little bit and kind of try to do yearbook, try to juggle some stuff. But I was almost so busy with sports, it was kind of hard for me to do a little bit extra stuff because I was playing so many sports. And we would travel like every weekend for sports and stuff. So we were constantly gone. And so at that time, I was kind of thinking, I was like, I kind of like sports broadcasting. I think I like to talk to people. I obviously like sports. And I love to talk. So when we kind of found out that I could make a career out of this, I was like, oh, that's kind of perfect for me. So I can still talk about what I love. And if everyone knows me, I talk a lot. So I think it was kind of the perfect little career path for me to kind of find. I remember I dabbled like looking into advertising and some graphic design and, PR stuff. I looked at it a little bit, but I think going into college when I was kind of trying to pick a major, when I found out that you could literally talk sports for a living, I was like, oh, well, that's right up my alley. So I think I knew in like around like junior year of high school when I started my college search.
So many kids play high school sports throughout their career, but not many of them then transition into collegiate sports. At some point, you must have had to decide. How did that take place? How did you find and fall into soccer as your sport to play?
So actually, kind of weird story. I always envisioned myself playing. Like I was the kid that wanted to be Mia Hamm when I grew up, and obviously, I don't have the athletic ability to have become Mia Hamm. I'm no Mia Hamm, but every little girl I think growing up wanted to be Mia Hamm. Around my age, we all wanted. She was the athlete to be for soccer, and so growing up, I always loved soccer, and then I really started falling in love with softball. I played basketball as well, and I played club, but that was kind of my third sport always. Like I kind of knew I was never going to play that one in college. It was always soccer and softball. And then so around like 8th grade or so, I started really getting into softball because it kind of starts picking up around that time when you're a little bit younger. It's a little bit slower. My mom had to kind of make sure I stayed with it and everything because it gets kind of slow when you're a little kid and it's
Right.
not the best sport to watch when it's not very good. So, so around that time, I was pretty convinced I was going to play softball in college, actually. So I was on a really good team. I think at one point we were like 8th in the country after nationals and stuff. So we were like really playing and traveling every single weekend of the summer. I was really loving it. I played center field. And then around my sophomore year summer, I think it was my sophomore year. I tore my supralabrum. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm not a science person. I tore that, and then it was pinching on the tendons in my rotator cuff. And then I also had bicep tendonitis. And so I was in a lot of pain. I had to get a cortisone shot and everything. And like, I just had to go to like rehab for it basically. So I was fine, some physical therapy for that. And then, that's when I went to a couple soccer tournaments then because my softball, I wasn't playing super well because I was hurting a lot. So, around that time, my softball team also broke up. So we kind of dissolved a little bit. And I was going to a few more soccer tournaments and I got like a lot more looks than I did for softball from college coaches. It's also very intimidating for those who don't know. If you're in a tournament, they just line up on like, the line. So you just look and you look over when you're playing, you just see all these coaches just staring. So it's very intimidating. You got to send out emails. Like it's a lot for those who don't know like that process. But and I started like my first like big college showcase for soccer. I had a couple coaches, actually it was Indiana State, like came up to my coach right after the game, was like, hey, I really like her. And so I started getting a little bit more looks for soccer. And that's when I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, I think this might be my thing. I think I might actually go play soccer actually. And I was like, I think I might be better at soccer. And softball is a very mental game. And soccer, if you're not playing well, you can kind of use kind of like your physicality or just hard work to kind of play well. Whereas softball, if you're having a bad game, you're having a bad game and you can't really do too much to fix it. If you have an error, then you may not get hit the ball again that game. But soccer, you can kind of make up for having a bad touch, with some hard work. So that was something that kind of drew me to it. And I think I always loved soccer a little bit more growing up. So that's kind of how it kind of came about.
Well, and that's what I love about soccer. And so many people that maybe aren't familiar with it think of it as a non-contact sport.
Oh,
which you're not really supposed to have contact. But as you mentioned, the physicality of it, and even especially at the collegiate level, I mean, I'm sure. Now, where did you play on the soccer field?
So actually, my whole life I played like center mid.
Okay.
And center midfield for those who don't know. And then I actually in college got moved to wing back, so wing defense, and I was playing there and I loved that spot. So I kind of wish I'd played it my whole life because I'm decently fast. So I got to make some sprints up the side. It was so fun. So I was kind of more my calling, I think, than the center mid. So and I was there pretty much the rest of my career. So
okay, so you still had some contact along the way.
Oh, definitely. Well, the funniest thing is my freshman year I came in, freshmen coming in to play against seniors, you're 18 coming against a 22-year-old potentially. And so I was pretty tiny coming in, but when you come out of senior year of high school, you think you're like bigger because you're going up against younger girls. So like you think that you're big and then you go into college. And I remember I was told to gain 10 pounds of muscle. I never lifted before either. So I was like, wait, we have to lift? And they're like, yeah, you have to lift. I was like, oh. And so I remember going up against some girls. I have a photo of it. It still makes me laugh to this day. I was going in so confidently, like running up to this girl, and you just see me like hit her, and I just go, she just keeps going. So it's definitely a physical game for sure. So you definitely have to have some muscle and be ready to shoulder people off the ball and everything.
Well, as you mentioned, somebody spotted you, a coach at Indiana State, and you enrolled at Indiana State, and people are wondering, why are we talking about this? Because don't worry, folks, it's got a good ending because she ends up coming to Austin Peay. But you spent your first 2 years there, and then how did you come to Austin Peay?
Yeah, it was a year and a half. So after I had a new coach come in my sophomore year fall that didn't recruit me. And so I played under her for that fall season. And then I decided I wanted to transfer to a different school. And I remember I was doing my college search. We were kind of looking around. My mom was kind of sending me schools. We were looking around, and Austin Peay was one. And they had a really, I remember we played them when I was at Indiana State for an exhibition game. So I was like, oh, okay, I remember them. Like, they're pretty good. And I kind of did some, research and everything. I reached out to the coach, Kelly Guth, shout out. So she's great. And so I remember I sent an email, and then we kind of were talking and did some phone calls, and she had me come out for a visit and everything. So, and then once I got here, I remember they actually took me around the communications department, and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have a TV room? Like, you guys have a Mac lab and a radio station? And that's actually like one of the biggest reasons I came to Austin Peay was because I saw the communications program and I fell in love. And I remember I was talking to some of the people there, and they're like, oh yeah, you can get in right away. We'll get you on the TV. We'll get you doing stuff. And we have a sports broadcasting program. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, wait, my whole school, no knock to Indiana State, but they didn't have all that, at least when I was there. And so I was like, whoa, there's so much going on here. So that was kind of a huge drawing point for me. And then I obviously met the girls on the team, because you spend, all your time with them when you're a college athlete. So met the girls on the team, and thought they were awesome, and really liked everyone's personalities and everything. So, and then I think it was pretty quick that I committed, and I was at Austin Peay by January. So it was like November to January, I was looking at schools or so. And by January, I was already at Austin Peay.
And I'm trying to imagine, it's about 5 hours to St. Louis or so, 4.5.
Yeah, about 5. So it's not bad. So you can't really go home that much unless it's Christmas break and a little bit of summer break. Anyways, I think I got to go for Thanksgiving if your team doesn't make it super far in the postseason. But so I got to go home for like holidays and things like that. And my parents love to come, so it's not too far of a drive for me.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
again, for the folks that are just joining us, we're both grew up in Illinois. And so what was I'm interested in what was your impression of Tennessee, especially Clarksville, when you came, because it's different.
I like it. So
It's
actually, before, I never listened to country music. I think there's only like 1 or 2 songs where I was like, okay, like this one's good. I like it. And my roommate, I'll give her a shout out too, Katie Costantino, is from Chicago, and she loved country music, which I was like, wait, you're from Chicago? Like, I thought like all the girls from like Tennessee would like the country music and stuff. And she got me hooked on it. And you know what? I bought 2 pairs of cowboy boots, when I got there. So, I was fully involved with that stuff. I loved it. So it was a great experience. And we can go to Nashville. Obviously, Nashville's super fun. I actually did an internship there. And but yeah, I really enjoyed the country. I still have my cowboy boots and everything. So I'm actually going to Nashville in a few weeks for a bachelorette. So yeah, so it's definitely fun.
Oh, great. So when you came here, as you mentioned, you got it. What amazes me is a student athlete, which I know the commitment that you had to put into that, the time to train, the time to practice, the time to do all the things that you have to do, be away from the school, to travel, to do all those kind of things. And yet you somehow found time to be a sports reporter, for the TV station. And then you did some sports talk around the radio, and you were the sideline reporter for football.
Yeah, I did only a little football. I think they had someone when I was there. They had, I think, someone who was coming in to do that for football a lot. But I did like all the basketball games. So
Okay,
I got to
okay.
basketball. I did get to shadow her a couple times for football, and so that was cool. But yeah, I don't know how I found the time. I guess if you really, I don't know. I guess if you really want to make it happen, you can make it happen. I did have a lot of like coaches and just like professors and everyone that did kind of help me work with it. Thankfully, basketball season is not during soccer season. So a lot of times in soccer season, we would be done with practices or anything before basketball games, or like we were off on Saturdays. when we were during our off season. So that's usually when basketball games are happening, or Saturdays, you know, so I was able to go work the games. So that was really helpful. But yeah, and then I remember Friday, like morning afternoons, I think is when the TV's APSU TV news would happen.
Mhm.
So I made sure I didn't have any like classes at that time. Usually our soccer practices were really early in the morning, so we'd go at like 6 something in the morning. So it actually was kind of beneficial with balancing stuff, because you'd be done with your workouts in the off season, at least for that. In the fall, I probably did have to like tone it back a little bit more. But I think for the most part, it wasn't too hard to balance. I think the classes a lot of times were like encouraging us to get experience and go to the TV news and like do, you know, the sideline reporting and production management with the sports broadcast with basketball games and things like that. So I think like the teachers kind of encouraged it. So like they helped and make like class loads maybe like lighter so they could do the other stuff or experience based. So yeah, I don't even know how I did it, but somehow we managed. I think my roommate one time was like painting my toes for me, because my feet were all nasty from soccer and I had to dress nice. And so she was helping me, and I was like writing my game notes down and like pulling out clothes for me to wear and stuff. So it wasn't without help for sure, and everyone helping me balance it and everything.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the professors in the department and other ones that you appreciated here at Austin Peay, because I think, as a reminder, they are the ones that inspire us and encourage us and find ways for us to have those opportunities. What professors would you like to thank?
Oh, definitely Karen Bullis to start. She actually gave me the broadcast communications award, student of the year. She was also my counselor. Is that what that is? I think
Advisor.
she was also my counselor. So she helped me with my schedule and everything. But she was like great from day one. So I loved her. She was great. Still like want to send her a gift basket at some point. And then Barry Gresham for sure. I still like am in contact with him sometimes. Like we'll email and everything. I think I have him as one of my references still on my resume. I don't know if he knows that still, but
Wow.
but yeah, but he was great too, just kind of helping me get into sports broadcasting and things like that. Cause right away, Karen helped me get into the TV news and everything. And then Barry was super helpful getting me into the sports side of stuff. And he was like, "Oh, you wanted to do sideline reporting? Okay, well, we'll throw you into a game right now." And I was like, "Okay." So I'd never done it before. And he was like, "Yep. All right. Well, how about Friday? You got a game? Okay." And I was like, "Okay, great. Like that's the best way to learn is, so
And
those
by the way, Brice, Barry is the one that said you need to talk to Brice.
I love him. No, he's great. He was still emailing me. I think when I was leaving my last job, I emailed him to be a reference still. So he's still on my references for my resume and everything. So we still communicate every so often. So yeah, he was just super helpful and just giving feedback. Both of them would just give feedback like after the shows if I needed, be like, "Hey, what do you think I can improve on?" or that or whatever. And they would tell you, or they would like right after my hit be like, "Hey, blah 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 blah," and like kind of give you, some, they wouldn't say blah 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 but you know what I mean. But they would give me feedback on what I did and things like that. And so I think that they were just super helpful. And yeah, they're great. I couldn't credit those two enough. Obviously other professors that I'm not naming as well that I absolutely loved that were great, but those two are the two that stick out to me the most.
So during that time, as you continue to prepare yourself, somehow you also had some time to make a short film, or
Oh yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that. I was in a videographer class. And where you really get your hands dirty on Adobe and really get to learn how to do Adobe Premiere and everything like that. And I was in a class and it was all guys and me and two girls. And so we called ourselves the Girl Gang. And those two are super talented. And we created a short film, and those two are amazing. Actually, one of the girls, Lindsay, actually, I'm not sure what the other is doing. I think I'd have to check up on her on social media, but I think Lindsay actually is helping produce Euphoria, the show. It was really, I think she was helpful, or not produced, but I don't know what she does on it, but I'm pretty sure she's working on that. So she went on to do amazing things. I think the other girl, yeah. Oh my gosh, sorry for butchering her name. My memory's terrible, but I think she's doing really well too. So, yeah, we did a little short film and we won our film festival. So
Yeah.
I can't give them enough credit though. They were like amazing. I remember I was like learning from them to watch them edit, and I was like, oh my gosh, like you guys have all the little cheat codes and stuff. Like now I'm good at it. But I remember like watching them and I was like, wow, you guys are impressive. So those two, I want to give them all the credit. They were amazing.
So, as you transitioned from leaving college to your first job, did you feel fairly prepared for that first job?
I did. Yeah, I did. It was a little bit more of, I would say I think the only thing I would have liked to maybe practice a little bit more, which I could have, but I was on air so much, was the other side of things, and which I did get the editing from that class. The one thing I wish, which I could have done, so it was kind of more on me, we had the opportunities to do it, was maybe shoot and like work on packages a little bit more, because that's a big thing that you do. I know that everyone is doing that at Austin Peay now. I think I was kind of a little bit more into the anchoring side, and so I should have maybe stepped up to try to do a little bit more with that. But I had a really stellar reel coming out of Austin Peay because of all the opportunities I was given. So I felt really comfortable going into my next job and being on air because I gotten so many reps with that already. So I was only into my job for like a month or so when I got promoted to our main morning news anchor. So
And where was that at?
I was in Mississippi. I was in a little small town called Greenville, Mississippi. And so I actually produced a 3.5 hour morning show, and then I anchored it, and I would have live guest segments, live cooking segments, totally not sports, but, and I would do all that. And I felt totally comfortable coming in because I felt like I didn't skip a beat because of everything that Austin Peay was given, like everything that was, I'm lost at words here, but everything that Austin Peay was like giving me the tools to learn to do when I got out of college.
So how long were you in Mississippi, and then how long were you hoping to get back to Illinois, or was it just following whatever the best job that was available?
Yes, so I really just wanted a job out of college. So I needed to, so I just kind of applied to jobs, and I was like, well, your first market, you're a lot of times in the middle of nowhere. Oh, like, and by that I mean you got to go to a small place, a smaller town. And I'm a big city person. I love cities. I love big areas with things to do and things like that. And so when you're getting to your first market though, you got to go to smaller towns. And so I was like, okay, well, if I go to a smaller town, I want it to be warm. And so I know a lot of people who went up, to really cold little towns. And I was like, I don't want to go. If I'm going to go to a small town, I want it to be warm. So I went to Mississippi, and it was definitely warm. And after that, COVID hit during that time as well. So I was very like isolated at that point. So I couldn't really go see my family. It's about a 6.5 to 7 hour drive. And so like you couldn't leave the States at point. Like it was, how COVID was with lockdowns and everything. And then I wasn't really around coworkers. I couldn't really be around anyone. We did go into the office still, and I did the morning shift. So I really wasn't around anyone but my meteorologist. And so like he was the only person I interacted with. So I was like, okay, I want to get closer to home after, COVID kind of lightens up here. I'd like to get a job a little bit closer to home because I'm like, this is a really far drive, and I'm super family oriented. So after that, I was like, okay. So I started looking at jobs, and it was actually really funny. The news director, I think it was a Saturday, that I was like, okay, I'm just going to take the Saturday to apply to jobs. And I remember I was applying, and I got a response like right away from the news director, and we were emailing back and forth. We had an interview like set for Tuesday, and I was like, oh, great. And then it happened really quickly. And then I was, I think I was like applying in November, and I was in Champaign by like January or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'm only 3 hours now.
So, and when you got hired, you were a news reporter.
Yes.
But then you got an opportunity to get into sports again.
So anyone who knows it's very difficult to find sports positions, because my mom and I joke it's kind of like the goalie like being a keeper in soccer because there's only 1 or 2 to 3 spots on a team of 27 people. So with sports, there's only 2 to 3 positions, a lot of times 2. A lot of places don't have 3. We have 3 in mine, but a lot of places only have 2. And so I found it difficult just to find openings. And so when I got this job, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get closer to home. And I was the lead news reporter. So I remember talking to the news director at the time. I was like, I would love to do live shots. My end goal is to be a sideline reporter, and which is all just, ad-libbing and asking questions and talking about what's going on and everything like that. And you don't have a script necessarily. You have bullet points or nothing at all. So I was like, I want to get really good at talking without a teleprompter. I want to be able to do live shots constantly. And that news director was like, well, we can do that. You'll go live all the time. How about that? And I was like, great. And so that's when
Someone's accepted.
yeah, he's like, okay, well, we love people going live. All right, you signed up for it. And so I got to go live a ton, and which was really helpful because like for me, I read off a teleprompter a bunch, but I wanted more live shots. And so I was like, okay, great. So I got that job, and then I was there in that role for about a year. And then one of the sports reporters left and got a new job. And so I just buddied with the sports director, my boss now. And I was like, hey, can I come on over? No.
Well,
And
that's how you do it. You got to network. You got to, yeah.
And he's great. My boss is awesome. So my sports director is fantastic. And so he was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like, we'll get you in here. So I was able to just move desks basically and start the sports world. And it's been great ever since. I've been doing this for over a year now in sports too.
So were you at all a University of Illinois athletic fan before you came over?
My dad is.
Okay.
For sure. So my dad really likes U of I, and as like a reporter, like I'm like impartial. So
Right, yeah.
but we do cover all of their games and everything like that. But my dad is a huge U of I fan, and my family too, because there's a little bit of a Mizzou Illinois rivalry when we were younger, a little bit more. And so they're all Illinois fans. One of my brothers had an orange and blue room. So he was a big Illinois fan when he was younger. He ended up going to SLU, not Illinois, but he was a huge Illinois fan. And so I actually get tickets through my work. Our sales department has tickets that they give us. So my parents went to multiple football games and multiple basketball games. So I was like, yeah, just tell me how many tickets you guys want. I can go get them. I'll just walk over to the sales department and pick them up for them. So they were really excited because they got to go to several games this year.
I'm sure they passed along. Did you get a chance to ask so-and-so a question, or what, have you talked to Coach Underwood about the team or this?
Oh yeah. No. The amount of times people ask me that too, they're like, can you ask Underwood this? Or I'm like, I'm not going to ask him that, guys. But yeah, they'll definitely say that. Like, you need to give him a word. You need to say this. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to say that. But it's fun. So it's definitely, they really enjoy that they are only like 3 hours away too. And I have an air mattress that I blow up in my apartment that they get to stay at and everything. So they
nice.
enjoy being able to come to games. Yeah.
Well, good. So let's talk a little bit about your current job. What's the hard? I'm going to ask you the tough question first. What's the toughest part of your job that you've had to transition into?
I would say the toughest. So I was an MMJ/morning anchor basically in Mississippi. So whenever I'd go shoot a package or anything, like I did it all myself. And then when I moved into the lead news reporter role here at WCIA, I had a photog with me. So I just had to write the scripts and do the interviews and be on air, but they were editing the stuff for me. So, and they were shooting as well, the video. And so then when I moved into sports, I kind of had to MMJ again, and which is how a lot of sports departments work. Even in top markets, they're MMJing. And so I did have to kind of readjust to that. That was kind of a little bit of a change for me to like kind of get used to editing on new software. We didn't have Adobe at that time, and that's what I was comfortable with was Adobe Premiere. So I had to learn a new editing software. We've soon switched back to Adobe Premiere. So I'm very comfortable with that one, but I had to learn a new editing software. I had to start shooting with the camera again, and it was a different camera than I had in Mississippi.
Yeah.
So you're just a little bit different. And so that was a little bit of an adjustment period, just kind of relearning that, because it's kind of like, when you take a break from something, it's kind of, you're rusty at it. So I had to kind of relearn and readjust to that. And then I would say some of the toughest stuff with sports is we are really pushed to get the most content in our shows on really tight deadlines. Like there will be times that the Illinois basketball game ends at 9 and we're throwing together a minute 30 of highlights, and also a sound. We have to do the post-game press conference and we stream it as well. So I'm trying to get highlights. I'm trying to stream the post-game press conference. And then I got to undo all that and stop the live that's going on all our social media platforms. Then I got to run out, interview the players, then run back and either do a package with the stand-up, with all those sounds, and write it and everything by our 10 o'clock show, or I have to go do a live shot. So it can be, there's been a time where, and this is kind of a funny story. I was in Nebraska and the game went later than I thought. And so I actually thought we were just going to be able to take the post game. I had sent back highlights during halftime. And so we had highlights. I had to add like 1 or 2. And then at the end of the game, so I sent back some new highlights. And then I was streaming our post-game press conference and it ended very, very quickly. And so originally my boss who was anchoring back in Champaign, I was in Nebraska, was just gonna be like, oh, now let's tune in to Brad Underwood talking about the game in our live post-game press conference, and then take him just talking. But that ended way earlier. It only went for 6 minutes. Usually they go for at least 15 to 30. And so we weren't expecting that. So I had to readjust. And so my boss had recorded the presser. So he was able to cut the sound for me back in Champaign. He was recording on his stuff. And so then he was like, well, can you do a live shot? I was like, okay, sure. So I had to grab my stuff. You're not really supposed to carry it like this, but I had my tripod and my camera. I'm running through the building to the court, sets it down. I have like 3 minutes until it airs, till I'm on air. And I grabbed my stuff, set it up, had the live box already set up, and I turned. My boss was in my ear and he goes, take a breath. I go, okay. Took a breath. And I had to give a live shot. And so like, it's crazy sometimes. And that one was a really rewarding experience because I was able to pull it off and it looked really great. And you have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. The viewers are like, oh, she just was doing a live shot, no big deal. But I was sprinting just 5 minutes before that. There was another time too where my live actually died. And I had a photographer with me. I was at State Farm Center in Champaign. And I actually did have a photographer with me, and he was upstairs at the post game, and I was down ready to do my live. Well, the post game ended and my live wasn't working. And so I did a full sprint up to grab the live, sprinted back and had to plug it in. And I hear them in my ear going, are you there? Are you there? And I was like running up the stairs and running back down the stairs. Thankfully I wear tennis shoes, and I had to do a full sprint, plug it in. And I think I had like 2 minutes, and they're like, all right, you're going live. And I was still like breathing. I was like, oh my God, I'm out of breath. And so yeah, it could be really crazy, but like the viewers never know what's going on. I've been in the other situation where I was anchoring and I was back, and things are coming in super late and I'm running in between commercial breaks and things like that. So it can be really crazy. So I would say that's kind of the most challenging, is trying to work on those tight deadlines to make sure our cast has everything and just looks amazing and looks good on air.
Well, it sounds like you're still staying athletic.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you busy for sure. Yeah, it definitely keeps you, because I mean, it's heavy too. I have to start, I couldn't do I work out still pretty regularly, and I had to quit doing arms for scrum. Whenever there's a scrum, I couldn't do any arm workouts that week if I knew that there was going to be a scrum, especially for football, because they go on for like 30 minutes, at least to an hour. And my arm will start to burn because I got to hold it on my shoulder. And then my left arm will burn too, because I'm holding the mic like this. And it's an arm workout for sure. So
yeah, that's only, I completely understand that. And other sports production and sports reporting students would sympathize and know what you're talking about there. You kind of given a little bit of insight on this. What's the favorite part of your job? What do you really like to do? What gets you out of bed?
Yeah, I love being at games. So that is my favorite thing.
Mm.
So right now it's a little bit slower season, which is nice. I'm going to take some more vacation days and stuff the summer. But I like love when sports season is happening. So I love being at a game, like being at a field or something. Like I joke, I'm like, oh man, work's gonna be really tough today. I got to go to 2 games. Darn.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, life's so tough. And for those not watching the video, I'm being sarcastic. So, um, but no, I love being in that environment. I think that is so fun to do, is to
Yeah.
be at those games and like to be on the field and you hear the crowd and everything. And like being an athlete myself, like I know what that kind of feels like. I never had those big of crowds. Growing, because I went to Austin Peay, mid-major school, and women's soccer doesn't get as big of crowds as obviously a Big Ten football game or a Big Ten basketball game. But I like to be in that environment is
Mm.
so fun because it was something that I always loved to be. It was on a field or a court growing up. So to be back on there, that's something that I just really, really love. And I would say the other thing that I really enjoy is storytelling. Sorry, my dad is texting me on my phone, on my computer. Sorry for the ding. And my other favorite thing is, yeah, storytelling and being able to like meet new people and get to tell their stories. Like right now we're doing athletes of the year. So it's a bunch of high schoolers and we actually pick the top 2 athletes of the year. You know, one was a 3-sport athlete, the other one was a 4-sport athlete. We picked a male and female, and it's just really neat to like tell their story and like find out who they are and just like tell a compelling story about who this person is. Because a lot of times, obviously, they're more than just an athlete. You know, they are, I don't know, like one's a mathlete or one, different stuff. And it's really cool to like share these kind of stories with people.
Yeah. You have to find out what's the hook.
What makes them, rather than like, yes, they're an athlete, but, you know, why are they that way? I just did a story on how the one guy's brother was training him and, helping him become the person he is. And it's really neat to kind of share those kind of stories with people.
Yeah. It sounds like you continue to grow. It sounds like you continue to put tools in your belt along the way, which is going to help you in the long term.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's definitely a grind. So we definitely stay very busy. But it's fun. Like I really enjoy it, and I couldn't really imagine a different career path for me because it's just something that like I get to go to work. Like it's not I have to go to work. I get to go to work. And so it's fun just to be able to do that or like read highlights on the game. Like I get to cover some St. Louis teams sometimes, like reading Cardinals highlights, and I'm a St. Louis sports fan, and so I get to kind of read those highlights. So that's fun for me to get to do that kind of stuff. You're a St. Louis sports fan too?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a lot in common because, yeah, I was Cardinal fan, and also the Rams used to have a training camp where I lived. And so,
Oh,
yeah, so we got to see all the Kurt Warner and all the other people
oh,
in
that's
the
cool.
days. Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, that's neat. But yeah, you got to make it to an XFL game now that they're
I
there.
know.
I haven't
Yeah.
checked one out yet either. Yeah.
So, Bryson, I appreciate you sharing your story today, but I always like to ask our guests, what kind of recommendations would you have? Now, you had an unusual situation as a student athlete, but what kind of thoughts might you have in terms of helping a young person interested in following your path?
I would tell them to get involved in everything that they can. You can't get enough experience. I'm still told like I need more experience. Like I need more experience. Like it's a very experience-based career. So as many reps as you can, like try to edit stuff too, like get behind the camera, get in front of the camera, like learn every part of it, because especially the way this career is going, it's a lot more MMJing. And so it's a lot more, you're one man banding it, you're doing everything yourself. So I think that would be the biggest thing, is like learn how to do everything. Because if anything, it's just going to help you in the long run. Even if you don't have to do everything in your first job, which if so, give me that job, because that's, I'm just kidding. But you're probably going to have to do everything. But
I agree.
but it's but even if you're not doing that and you're only doing one thing, like you're going to have respect for the person that's doing the other one though. So it's going to be able to, you're going to understand that. And then together you can make really great content. Like if you have a photographer that is shooting your stuff, well, then you guys can have a similar eye and you can work together to make a really good story. But if you're like in college and stuff, I would also say internships. I had 2 internships that I did. One was with Fox Sports Midwest, now Valley Sports Midwest. And I also did an internship with Nashville Soccer Club, and I commuted 2 hours basically every day to this internship. Didn't go on, I sacrificed my spring break to go to work those games my senior year. I would say, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to like make a ton of sacrifices or whatever, but have initiative and take those internships, try to get internships, get experience, make those connections. Connections are huge. And also don't be afraid to like speak up. At my like internships and stuff, like I told them for Nashville Soccer Club example, I told them I really want to be a sideline reporter. So the one time they gave me the opportunity to go to a game in Birmingham. So I actually traveled with them to Birmingham and I got to do some interviews for the game at halftime and post game. And so they're like, okay, you want to do sideline reporting? Like we'll get you in some things. And which was really awesome. It was when they were the USL team at the time and I kind of helped their transition to MLS. But I just asked and they were like, yeah, we can get you some reps. So that's the biggest thing is ask if you can. You just pretend to rehearse. If you're like you're at a news station in Nashville, if you go to Austin Peay and you take an internship in Nashville, like ask if you can do reps on the desk, like ask if you can put together a package, like ask to do this stuff because sometimes they won't give it to you. So just ask and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, like we can throw you in. We want the help anyways, usually. So they usually will take it, but that helps build your reel. It helps build your experience. You kind of understand what people go through. So I would say like those main things is just don't be afraid to speak up and really just like work for what you want. If you want it, like work for it. They're not just going to hand it to you. So you've really got to grind to get what you want.
Well, that's some great advice. I think that obviously you have invested in yourself multiple times over throughout your life, not only with sports, but also in your professional life, Brice. And I would say what was Indiana State's loss was Austin Peay's gain. And we're so glad to have you as an alum.
Oh, thank you. No, I love going to Austin Peay. So I still talk to like my classmates and some girls from the communications program. I follow them on socials. So it is really cool just to see. I think I still follow Austin Peay like TV on Instagram. So I like watch people. So it's really cool to like just see people doing well. And it is a community, you know, when you go to a school like that, like you make lifelong friends and professors that stick with you and are amazing. So it is really neat that Austin Peay kind of has that dynamic where you get to be so close with your professors and make such good friends. So it's been an amazing experience. So very happy I transferred. So.
Well, you are now part of our legacy.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me and everything.
And thanks to all of our weekly viewers out there for watching and checking out our podcast. We hope that you will continue to do so as we profile some of the other outstanding alumni we have here in the College of Arts and Letters at Austin Peay State University. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless.